child, we used to come to church and praise the name of the Lord.
I'm stolen property. I'm stolen property. Police be clocking me.
What's going on? Will and his channel fans. Anti-fans. How are we all doing today? Hope you're doing well. I think I'm about to hop into Olly's Discord right here. And we'll just get right into it. Let's see here. Cool. Hello.
Will, what's up?
Yo, yo. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. You're a bit quiet, but I might be able to turn you up. Am I okay on your end?
Yeah, you sound good. Here, let me turn my cam on and stuff.
You're good. Go ahead and do that. I don't have a face cam, so I'll just be looking at you.
Cool.
Hell yeah. So, whenever you're ready. Oh, hell yeah. Look at you.
Here, let me still pull you up that way. We can see when you're talking.
Yeah.
Pop this crap out. Perfect. Alright, one more time. Perfect. So what's new in your life? What you been up to since trans genocide panel?
But, dog, that was like a while ago. Shit.
know.
Not a whole lot. I mean, my voice is dropped, so, like, you know, that's nice. But other than that, just working and being tired as shit. How about you?
Fuck. Working and being tired as shit sounds like a pretty apt description of my life as well.
Yeah. What's up with so like my main interest was like as I was watching the panel you did with Smith, like what is up with this new arc on the copyright thing and the bullying thing? This seems like new for both of y'all. Did Max give you an idea, or did y'all just talk about it yourselves?
Max, what? So I've been working the project that I've been working on since what do you call it? Since my last video is about AI. So
Oh,
I've
okay.
been so I've been doing AI stuff pretty independent of Max talking about stuff. I actually it was really cool when he had that AI researcher guy on. I was like, "Oh, that's so fun. That's like actually something I'm looking into right now." So it was really
And
cool. Yeah, not related at all.
okay, okay.
But yeah, and then this React content is theft stuff. You know, I think people get kind of confused when I say things because I think they kind of mistake what I say when I'm making descriptions about things as
Hmm.
prescriptions. And what I meant when I said that was, you know, I think just descriptively, like factually, I think that React content, you know, if you do React content, you're technically breaking the copyright laws in America by doing so, you know, and in that way you are stealing the content, right? I mean, it's the clickbaity title, right? But I still think the premise is the same.
I
So I'm
mean,
not making a prescription about it. Like you can say whatever you want about it. You can say, hey, like this shouldn't happen. We should change how the copyright laws work, or we should change how streamers react to content. But I just think descriptively, what I said holds true.
like probably so. There's like a lot of like weird stuff about like copyright and like React content, So I get that, but it seemed as far as like that one specific panel goes, which I didn't want to like only focus on that, but just as far as that goes, it seemed like strange that you brought up like the Google definition of the panel and all that, like of like fair use and that entire thing, and was you were taking like this weird like legal stance on it, which didn't like we all kind of know that there's like a weird gray area with like fair use laws and React content and all that. So it seemed like a weird thing to like bring up and then start a panel over. Whereas it seemed like a lot of the other like members of the panel seemed to think it was going to be more a discussion about like the morals and ethics and that kind of thing. Um, I don't know, like what was your goal with taking that angle on it?
I'll be honest. I think the moral stance is really boring. Like everybody, look, what's the opinion on it on React content, right? Well, you know, React content, if done under the right circumstances, even if you watch the entire thing, it probably should be legal, right? Like that's the
Mm,
easy state, and that's what like 90. Obviously, that's what every Twitch streamer is going to agree with because that's how they make their money, right? Um, so I think
right.
it's a much more interesting conversation to be like, well, technically the laws are this, and if we want like perhaps maybe live streamers or online content to be taken more seriously, maybe we should take some of you know, some of these things that apply to other pieces of media, and they do apply to things that you upload to YouTube, right? There just hasn't been enforcement on it. Um,
Mm.
I think that is a much more interesting conversation to have because we could actually talk about, you know, like do we think that if you can watch a whole piece of content all the way through and still have it be fair use? I think that's a kind of a legal question more than a moral question, right? Because
I
we
don't
can
know. I
agree.
mean,
Yeah.
I think the legal aspect really only comes in when one person is like taking advantage of another one hardcore, right? So if you've got like a Hassan situation with like the JXE stuff where Hassan was like legitimately just playing an entire video while he went and took a shit or whatever and was just like playing a video in its entirety and not crediting the original creator or anything, that would probably be like a more explicit situation of like taking advantage of like the loopholes and like the gray area to benefit you without helping out a smaller creator. But in general, like when it comes to React content, it seems to be like a symbiotic relationship almost where through the React content, if the reactor is being good faith about it, they'll probably drop your link or like give some people like a way to access that content on their own if they want to, and as a result, like they get some content out of it because they get to react to it, and then you get like some more traffic to your channel. it doesn't seem like you really need the law to jump in unless people are being hardcore abusive of the system. You know what I mean? Which I don't really see a whole lot, especially at least in this space. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the only time anyone would get the law involved would be, or the law, or should I say, like DMCA or YouTube or whatever, would be when it negatively affected them. I mean, if it positively affects you, you're like, fuck it, steal it all day, baby. Like, keep stealing it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But that doesn't change the legal question of, is what you're doing legal? Because if the thing is that we're just hoping that the content, they're gonna like the way that we reacted to, that's the other thing too, is that it kind of makes reaction content in some ways biased. Because if I make a react content of something and it's positive, well then that's going to look good on you and you'll want me to keep that up. But if I make a react content of something that you did that's terrible, you're going to say, oh no, you stole my work. And
So this is why I find like the like aspect, put the legality of it aside. This is why I find like the other discussions about this kind of concept more interesting, is because when I when I was talking to Smith yesterday, a big thing that kind of sparked the whole conversation was the fact that I put out a tweet saying like, hey, about a year ago, I sent Chud Logic a video of mine from an old channel, and he reacted to it. There was like mixed feedback from the audience. He had some criticisms here and there. I don't think he found it that funny or anything. But I didn't like, just because the reaction was negative and all that, did not compel me to DMCA or to take any negative action against him. When I was talking to Smith, he seemed to take that as like I was like deliberately not defending myself against an attack. My whole thing with that argument is that I don't see it as an attack, and I don't see the need for any content, whether it's positive or negative, to be DMCA'd, especially if you're putting it out on a public platform for other people to access. If I'm watching it and I'm not recording it, I'm still reacting to it. I might watch it with my husband or my friend or whatever. There's still a reaction taking place just because it's being live streamed to other people, and you're profiting off of that time that you're taking out of your day to watch it live. It seems like there are a lot of arguments and conversations that can be had that don't involve the legality of it, that make it way more interesting. That's why I find it a bit confusing that you went on a panel with the Google definitions and stuff first.
Well, I think
does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get that. I think that before you can even talk about the morality of it, everyone should have an extremely clear understanding of what the actual laws are about it, and just the objective. I don't know how to explain this other than just, if you react to a piece of content and you use the entire piece of content in the reaction, that no longer is that's not legal. There has not been a single case of this brought forward where someone reacts to the entirety of the work and then they still claim it, unless they literally if it's an hour long's work and they react to it for 10 hours. You know what I mean?
Wasn't there an entire thing about this exact problem with the Jinx channel back in the day, where people were complaining that he was just sitting there recording the entire video and then reacting to it? Not making a reaction to it, but just basically playing the original video in a small corner of the stream, in the small corner of the video, and then not really doing any reacting to it. It feels like this has already been kind of discussed and that kind of thing.
Sure, but okay, most streamers, when they react to content, they react to it in its entire form, or at least the majority of the form. Would you agree or no?
Yeah, probably, but you don't want to take people out of context either, right?
Right. Okay, but all right.
React.
I agree. All right. Let me. But let's say one of the most famous cases about this was I believe H3H3 got into it with somebody, right? Yeah. And they were suing them, and the reason why they were suing them was because they had reacted to this thing and it affected their business negatively, right? But the way that H3H3 was able to get away with it was they didn't react to the entire piece of content. They had just reacted to a section of it, much to similar how a news station, might be able to use something that's copyrighted if they only use a little segment of it, right? But if H3H3 had reacted to literally the entire piece of content, I think that they might not have actually been able to get away with it in court because they were able to use kind of these other precedents that had been set up, through this system.
I mean, I probably
So
wouldn't
so
disagree
I
with you there.
yeah.
There's definitely like a legality aspect of to it, but like when you're talking about legal stuff, it either is or isn't legal. So when you're bringing that up, it's like where do you want the conversation to go after that? Especially because the panel was titled like it, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something about along the lines of like copyright and bullying. They were both kind of like in there. Where do you kind of see the connection, and what kind of got you rolling on that like entire topic with those two concepts like combined type of deal? Does that make
So
sense?
yeah, sure. Copyright and bullying was not the topic that anyone signed up for. We all
Okay,
signed up
okay.
for a panel that was called. I mean, I think I can literally tell you what it was called on Discord. But it's like I know that there's like this perception that like I'm just a total retard and why did I talk about all this shit and like why did I it's one I kind of helped set it up with Wick. Like originally, like I wanted him to host it because I think it's kind of unethical for the host to be in the panel, right?
Hmm.
Fuck, I don't actually have it. Okay, it literally was called though, like, is content theft, right? That was the name of the panel.
Uh, okay.
So, and it was just supposed to be a panel about that. Like, if people wanted to talk about how they thought that's, Lav stealing her video and putting it up on whatever was bullying or whatever, that could be their own thing. But like, what I wanted to set up was like this idea of like, React content is theft. Okay, well, all right. If React content is theft, and we can just and it just categorically is. Okay, we can discuss whether or not we like it or not later. Okay, then that would mean that downloading an entire video from somebody and putting it on another platform for someone to then react to in entirety is actually like 2 or 3 crimes built into this bad boy. Like when you really
Hmm.
think about it, it's like 3 copyright infringements. So I just find that, and that to me is a bridge. It really is a bridge too far. Um, the only like when Sick downloaded President Sunday's video and then redacted all of Kyla's information from it and then re-uploaded it. I honestly wasn't a huge fan of that either. I think the only reason why anyone in our community let that one pass was because supposedly the information was doxable. I don't know that to be true or not, but like Sunday taking Lav's entire video and downloading it and then re-uploading it on Rumble or wherever the fuck it was, like, that seems a bit far in my mind, right? So I was taking the legal approach because I wanted to like just lay down the foundation of basically nothing that happens on this platform is legal. And we just let it go because we all enjoy it and it all benefits us. But when it doesn't benefit us, then we can use the legal precedent is there to be like, yo, take this shit down. And then you have to ask yourself, like you've been asking, right? Like, when do we decide to take something down? Or like, like, is it like, it's kind of like a limbo state, right? And I think
I mean, I
that's
feel like
worthy of
there's a
discussion, but you
process.
have to do
Like,
the legal thing first.
I don't know if Rumble is as similar. I'm not as familiar with Rumble's rules and stuff. I don't agree with President Sunday just like taking Lav's video and like re-uploading it. I'm not exactly sure like all the background in like information about that. My broader point that I was interested in talking to you about, because like both in DMs and like in the announcement I made for the stream and everything, we were kind of talking about like the bullying thing in general.
Yeah.
I know that was more of Smeth's thing on the panel, but panel aside, because I think I can like somewhat understand where you're coming from with like the legality of like certain React content and that kind of thing. Personally, for me, I like the rules to be a little bit looser so that people can figure out their differences like interpersonally. That's just like my preference on that type of thing. But do you have like a more like general stance on like what goes on in this space and how people interact with each other? Because I've seen you comment on that a couple times as well.
Yeah, totally. For one, I think that there has been it's either one of two things, and I'm willing to be soy to either of them. It's either there's been an escalation in kind of like how shitty people in this community are to each other sometimes. More specifically, in a certain particular part of the internet. And it's either that or it was always there and I was partaking in it. And the only reason why, like, I feel it kind of like so much now is because, like, I realize that I kind of was a part of it, and that makes me feel a little guilty in some ways.
Do you think it could be partially that you've seen some of the negative impacts, and so that's kind of changed your perspective on it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably. I mean, yeah, like, there was this Rose Malay thing that happened where, like, dude, there were just a couple turning points, before feudalistic hierarchy came out, where it was just like soul searching content, like we talked to Rose Malay and we were reviewing her album, which is objectively terrible in my mind, right? But like we reviewed it and she came on and she felt so attacked that she was like, I'm quitting music on Twitter. And like I felt so terrible. Like the whole fucking point of reacting to this album wasn't to make her like feel so shitty about herself that she was gonna go tweet that she was quitting music. That's not like what I'm fucking about.
Like, she just like announced her next album, so I don't even know if
what we squared it away, right?
Had like
offline.
That much,
I mean, we squared it away, but it's just like I don't want to make anyone feel so sad or pissed off or whatever, that they make a tweet like that after something that I do. Like that's kind of.
Would you say that like this kind of experience is one of the reasons that you wanted to leave the space in general?
It was just kind of like God was guiding me through a couple of these. Like that was just one where it was like, I'm gonna like show you how big of a piece of shit you are. Like, and you really should just stop doing what you're doing. Honestly.
But wait, who are you talking about when you say piece of shit? Like
me, I'm a piece of shit. Like I was just kind of being like, I'm like feudalistic hierarchy of online politics there's a reason why it took so long. Like there were just things that kept happening that kept like inspiring things in the video, all the way leading up to me just wanting to leave this space for the most part.
Right, but you're still here, so what's kept you around?
I think that first, I am still here in some ways, more as a fan than as a content creator. I just keep making that distinction because I think it's important. Like, if you go and you look at my content that I've made for the past 2 months, objectively, I have not really made any online poll content. Like, I mean, I interviewed Mr. Girl, I guess if you want to count that. But I've been silent, and I was literally doing like 3 or 4 online poll streams a week for like a year and a half, Like, I was kind of in the cut. And I just basically quit cold turkey.
I'm seeing the feudalist hierarchy. That was a pretty good video. I see Hogwarts Legacy, Xenogenders, Hunter Avalon. It seems like you have been doing like online poll stuff.
Those are like months old.
Am I missing something, or have you been doing something like since then that I'm not seeing?
No, I just haven't. I released I've been working on this video called Schrödinger's Stash. That's the thing that's coming out about AI. I'm making more produced content now.
Gotcha.
But I wanted to have this conversation too, because like, I mean, just to be honest, I'm biased. Like, I fuck with you, like from, the Transgenocide panel. I just really appreciated you coming on for that. So I felt like, at the very least, like I deserve, I owed you to come on and chat with you about whatever you wanted to talk about,
I don't ever want anybody to feel like they owe me something.
And I wanted to. But it's just like, I don't want to have too many of these conversations.
The genocide thing, because like, I don't know, at the time especially, like the topic was just like really pissing me off, so it was good to have like a panel about that. I was kind of laughing at like some of the shit you got for that, but I also found it like to be pretty entertaining, especially because I've never done that much research on like any topic, especially genocide of all things. So it was just really funny to have like a Google Doc full of like just facts about genocide or whatever. So I appreciate that. I will say that like I think some of the complaints I've seen about like this space coming from Smith and maybe you, I can't remember if you've really like chipped in on this or not as much. It comes off a lot as like being whiny, if I'm being completely honest. And I fuck with you too, so don't take it personally or anything. But sometimes when I see like people complaining about the environment in the space, I feel like, at least for me, I've watched online content like since I was in high school. I've seen so many different drama arcs, and it's very surprising to me that anybody would join an online space and then be surprised at some of the animosity that is involved in like just this like uh business in general. You know, I think if you want to like get a break from that kind of stuff, video essays like what you're doing it's definitely like the way to go because you can distance yourself a little bit more from like the live negative reactions and that type of deal. But like yeah, no, a lot of that was just interesting to me from you and Smith both. Some of the concerns that you voiced. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Um
If you were to recap like your main concerns and your main criticisms, I hope you're not I hope I'm not making you into a broken record here, but what would you say to that?
when I first the thing that first enticed me into this space was the Dylan Burns panels.
Mm,
I watched those for like well over a year before I even made a Twitch account. Like I just
right,
watched them on YouTube. Basically like I'd be like, oh, like there's Heem. I'm gonna go on Heem's channel and like I'll watch the VOD. That's like I didn't
yeah,
have internet for 2 years and I was just watching like debate VODs for a year.
gotcha.
Before I moved back into town and I had internet. And then I was like, yo, I like debating. Like, I like politics. I have a computer. Like, I should try this out, you know? Tried it out, got into the space. And I think that there really has been a change in the past year and a half, 2 years since I really started getting into this more seriously in our little space. I feel like
Mm,
it really did used to be more serious. Like, the stakes used to be higher. The things used to be more like I don't know, it used to feel like more important the things that we were talking about and the people we're talking about, you know? And it's like
right,
since Destiny got banned from Twitch, I know everyone says this shit, but I really do agree. Like it's just gone downhill, like the online politics scene. Um, it just in like in
right,
quality. Yeah, just in overall quality and like importance and seriousness is the big one for me. Um,
right. I mean, like when it comes to the series, I mean, like the panels have definitely changed. I consider myself still like quite a newbie to the like Twitch poll space, just because like I kind of got into it like on the tail end when like the panels were just starting to die down and stuff. Like I think that things have changed. I don't know if it's like a dip in quality though. I just feel like the space has like gotten big enough now where it can fracture a little more and become like smaller ish spaces within like a bigger space. So, you know, like you've got the hardcore lefties and the Vosh orbiters, you've got like Destiny orbiters, and then sometimes Destiny brings people on, they get like those people get a little bigger and those people get orbiters as a result. So it's like I don't think things have necessarily like gone down in quality. It just like everybody right now is just like kind of figuring out what Twitch politics or like online politics in general looks like. When it comes to actual like criticisms about like what has dipped in quality, like what do you sense in like the quality change? Like what did the old content have that the new content doesn't? I know you mentioned stakes. Do you care to elaborate on that a little bit?
yeah. Um, and see, and like I don't blame all of online poll or like specific people for this because I think some of it is like literally the platform's faults too for fucking the TOS and stuff, right? But like it felt
Mm,
like we would have really controversial, but like people that really gave a shit about the things that they were talking about, like to the point where they were going out into their real world and fucking doing some of these things. Like when you would
mm,
have like Nick Fuentes on a panel, or when you would have Destiny versus, like pick your favorite rightoid, right? Like damn, just there were some really classic panels back in the day. Um,
mm,
and it felt like pe- and it felt like the people that were listening to these things, like they weren't just like cage blood matches for the most part. There usually was pretty good moderation, and it was a good place for thoughts to be exchanged. I did feel like it had the potential to change people's minds that were watching this content if they had a certain opinion about a thing.
Oh, it definitely
Um,
changed my mind. I got the COVID vaccine because of Hunter Avalon and him debating the COVID stuff. That was a big thing that got me into these spaces in general. Um, when we're talking about like shit, hold on. Let me see if I can. bring it back. I was gonna say something. Now I can't quite remember. Keep going. So sorry.
No, it's fine. I'll be honest. My trans takes were changed by Vosh. I know that's pretty cringe to say in some regards, but like, some of those logical ideas of just like, can you define this? Like, how do you define this? Do you realize that all your definitions about this like come from subjective things rather than objective things? Like, that fucked with my head. Like being like a hardcore like Ayn Randian objectivist for a while, and that was really helpful for me to open my mind and think about other topics.
Right.
And I don't feel that way about this space anymore. It's just kind of a bummer. Like the most interesting opinions or the most interesting ideas that I'm getting from things on the internet now are no longer coming from this group of people that I've been watching for well over like 2 years now, that it's just weird. It just seems like everybody's like fallen off a little bit, like Stardust. I used to fucking love Stardust's content. Like her on the kill stream, god damn, that was good content. Like and she was such a good debater in those moments, and now it's just like I can't watch her shit for more than like 15 minutes.
I think a lot of people have to like stay on top of their content and kind of stay hyper vigilant on like how it's performing and stuff like that. I can't speak to anybody's analytics. I can barely speak to my own because I'm such a small channel, right? But what I can say is that like there seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding in how some of these spaces operate. This is something that I kind of had to learn as well. It's not as much about the like free exchange of ideas as people sometimes like to make it out to be. When I first put out my Jesus Christ, this was the same video that I sent to Chud like way back in the day to like react to. It was called Reassurance. I basically said, hey, if you feel dumb watching some of these like bigger streamers talk about these complicated like issues or whatever, don't feel dumb. They're fucking stupid as well, and like nobody actually knows what they're talking about. I said it with like a whole lot more vitriol, and I was like a lot more annoying about it, I would say, but I still hold to that like 100%. Is that like most people in these spaces do not have degrees in this shit. They don't know what they're talking about, and it's mainly driven by an interest in like bringing numbers to your content, right? My thing is that like I've come to understand that, and I don't see a problem with that. But other people seem to have a like big issue with the like with the way that you like profit off of content in these spaces. I remember you on the panel like about React content being theft and stuff. Almost like kind of putting down the way that a lot of React streamers make their money and that kind of thing, where it seemed like you took like an issue with that, which like personally for me I really don't like. As far as like the space goes and any space goes, it has to be driven by content and by numbers. If the content does well, you'll see it in the stats, and that's how you're gonna like basically grow. That's how the space was created in the first place. So it's interesting to me when like smaller streamers like me or you or Smith like get into these spaces, and then there's like complaints about the way they operate when it's like this is how these spaces were created in the first place. Does that make sense?
It does. Okay, but then you have to wonder, so someone reacted to your content, okay? And basically what they do is that they're just letting you borrow their audience, Like they will become your fans eventually, maybe, right? But basically like, they watch the video on their stream, they post it in the bottom, the people go to it, okay? They click like on your video or whatever, and then maybe they watch the entire video a second time. Most of them, I like that. I don't know if that shows in my personal algorithm, my numbers, right?
I think it does, because like
only on my
hasn't
last
Chud
video
reacted to some of your videos where like hasn't that
but it's
given
not
some
just
traffic
Chud.
to your channel?
But it's
Well,
not
no,
just
but
Chud.
I'm saying like if you've gotten something out of the space for the way this like the React content thing works, like what's the issue then?
Because it's only good for me if it benefits me. But like, okay, so because there's a reality where Chud Logic watched Extreme Daddy Festo, okay, said the exact same shit about it, but then no one subbed to my channel. Like, that theoretically could have happened. And then I'd be like, oh, well, this is bullshit. This guy watched my video, like, and then I didn't even really get anything out of it, other than, like, some people saw my fucking video. Great. come to my channel and fucking pay me. You know what I mean? So the
I
dynamic
mean,
only exists where you're only cool with it if it benefits you. But I just wanted to
I don't
point
know.
out
I
where
mean,
like it's just like you know, and then you're kind of you are beholden to them. Like Chud Logic, they're like there was a time, and I probably still am, very beholden to his community in some ways. Because
what do you mean by that?
he did, I mean, like, he's the one that, you know, really exposed me to, you know, the greater online poll and gave me a lot of credibility, you know, by, like, reviewing my Extreme Daddy Festo and going over it with all those people.
Do you think it's like a smart business tactic to just rely on like bigger streamer for your exposure? I know that like I mean internet marketing has become such a big thing that people are getting fucking degrees in this shit. Like, is it smart to rely on Chud for your exposure?
When you when you're in our space, of course, because Chud is like the second or third largest streamer under Destiny, like
Right,
on
but there's
average.
a like I mean
So yeah, in our
you can
space, it's
have him in your
imperative.
network. No, I wouldn't say so. I think I know with my video, I I had Chud like react to it. He did. I talked to Smith about like how that was received yesterday. It wasn't like too great, but Lonerbox found it and then he reacted to it, and I got like pretty decent sub boost off that. Right? I guarantee you, if I had been consistent with my content upload schedule, I wasn't at the time, but had I been, I would have been able to get that same amount of subscribers like within a certain amount of time. You like the algorithm on YouTube from my experience. I've had side note, I've had like multiple channels. None of them exist anymore because like I've kept flip flopping and shit. But I can say this for sure: the algorithm on YouTube definitely favors quantity over quality. It seems, at least from my observation. So if you're consistent with your upload schedule and you are smart with your marketing and your networking, you can make it without relying on one streamer's exposure to like get numbers on your channel, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you completely. Like, if you you know, there would have been. I guess here's the counter question. Could I have made the Extreme Daddy Festo and had that get algorithmic reach, or did I need to rely on a bigger streamer for that to get more reach?
I can't speak to the specifics about that because like with smaller communities, um when you make content on like small individuals within small communities, right? In the large scheme of things, you even said this to Chud, like even he in like the large scheme of YouTube is probably like looked down on more as a hobbyist, right? So it's like you know we're talking about like such a small section of the internet community that I don't know if like that would have necessarily made as much success for your channel if you hadn't like gotten somebody else to react to it, but you did get somebody else to react to it. It benefited you. So again, like the criticism of React content seems a little bit strange since it does seem to like benefit people when things go well. There's no telling, like you could have sent that video to several other people. If it hadn't been received well by Chud, maybe it would have been received well by somebody else, right? So again, like the main criticism of like React content and stuff seems a bit strange to me.
Well, here's what I did. I made a video, okay, and I was able to create almost 20 to 30 hours of Chud's content that weekend, solely based on the fact that I created the Extreme Daddy Festo. So he got it, whatever amount of money that Chud made that weekend, okay, for literally talking about Extreme Daddy Festo for 20 to 30 hours, right? That was his benefit, okay? President Sunday got about 10,000 views across, like, reviewing Extreme Daddy Festo content. I think it was 10,000 views. It could have been more, I don't really know for sure. Zonia got a grip of views out of it. I got, like, less than 3,000 views on it on my channel. So, while, like, it only put me to 400 and some odd subs, okay? So you have to think about the amount of impressions that my video technically got across all of this shit, right? And it ultimately only amounted to my video, okay? Me getting paid, okay, if we want to put it like that. It only amounted to me getting less than 3,000 views on my video and less than 200 subs.
I mean, how
So,
many like I don't know. I mean,
but like I
since I've
generated a bunch of
started
shit for those people. Like they needed
since
me
I've s-
to make
since
that
I've
content.
started this channel for myself, right? Um I have never put out like a piece of content. Granted, I am actually a hobbyist at this point, right? It's not like a huge deal for me at this point. But with the amount of content I've put out, I've seen growth. It's steady, it's consistent. Um and I don't really know what else to ask for. I mean, if you're a small creator in a space with other like small creators who are just like slightly bigger than you can't really expect your video to get like tons and tons of like traction based off like a bunch of smaller creators like reacting to it, right? Like the fact that you got to the point that you're at already off that exposure clearly shows that something is working. So
Okay.
I don't know
I
why
just want
like
to
that isn't
clarify.
good.
I'm not
Hmm.
complaining.
Okay.
You understand, right? Like, I'm not complaining. I'm simply describing the events that happened. Like just
Right, but when you
factually.
phrase it as in like I only got like less than 3,000 views or something like that, I mean like
But that
I don't
yes,
know
that is
exactly.
factually true.
Right. Yeah, you got less than 3,000 views, but like are you talking like 50 views or 2,000 views here? Like I mean 2,000 views is still pretty good for this like space. You know what I mean?
2000 view I mean, but you say that, but it took me 6 months to make that video, okay? Chud Logic will react to a piece of content, chop it up, get 2000 plus views. You know what I mean? Like there's a how much time it took me to make that piece of content. What was my return on doing this? And then the question is, could my return have been larger if the streamers had like, I don't know, like thrown. I don't know exactly what could have happened. And I'm not complaining. I just want to point that out. Like, I'm very grateful for this exposure. I'm just I'm just stating the facts of what had happened, right? Like
I
people
mean, it
benefited from
you
my
can
content, right? Like that's
and
objectively true.
and again, don't like take this as like a personal attack, right? But if you're out here saying you're not complaining and you're grateful and stuff like that, coming out and saying React content is theft does come off as like a little bit complaining. If you know, even if the benefit wasn't as much as you thought it would have been, or it could have been more, like complaining about it being theft in hindsight after you've already like benefited off of it to a certain extent, like does seem a bit strange, right?
Well, I mean, it's just, I mean, live and learn, right? Like,
Oh, of course. I mean, like,
you know,
I'm
I,
not like here to cancel you. I'm just,
oh
I'm
yeah,
just trying to
no, I don't mean it
understand.
like that. Yeah, and once again, it's like, I just wanted to propose, I wanted to just make everyone more aware of the idea that React content is theft because it breaks copyright law. So it's just like, this is a beast that eventually we're gonna have to feed at some point. In
I
my
think
opinion.
what I
Like
think the
eventually there's gonna
only
be a lawsuit or something, and something's gonna give. Like, and then this content will be cracked down on. I think.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but I'm gonna be completely honest. Usually, these laws seem to take like these laws only start to get like get instated after enough people complain about it. Essentially, you
Well,
know,
yeah.
and when it seems like people are complaining only because they expected it to go better than they thought than it actually did. Um, I don't know, like at least to me, I can understand why some people would see that as a bitch move. You know what I mean? Or it's like,
I
oh,
was
I uploaded this. Some people reacted to it. I didn't get as much out of it as I wanted to. Now I'm gonna make it the law's problem. Like I don't know. It comes off that way.
I guess if that's how it comes off, that's not the intention. But like the thing that really started this off for me was like a Twitter thread with Zonia where I was just like, what President Sunday did is piracy, like objectively. Just in the
I'm
law
not here to
of the
defend
United States.
President Sunday. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, but I just thought it was interesting that Zonia is like, no, this isn't piracy, da 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 da, and I'm like, not only is this piracy, but the React content that you do is theft because you do not own the copyright to these works, and you most likely do not have the permission of the person to use it. Like, that's kind of like where all of this started, right? This didn't start because I'm fucking salty that I didn't get views on a video. Like, but I also want to provide the objective observations, from creating content, to just be like, it's interesting that, someone can spend X amount of time making a piece of content, and that usually it's harder to make a produced piece of content, right? But then theoretically there is a whole group of people that can react to your content that could make way more money than you off of it, depending on how big they are. And
Usually, if
your
people are
return is
making-
exposure. It's bullshit. It's like when I'm a photographer, like, and I shoot real life photography. I'll get this shit, bro, where like wedding people will come and be like, "Hey, shoot my wedding," and I'm like, "Okay, it's gonna be like $3,000." And they're like, "Okay, actually, we're famous Instagram people, and we'll give you exposure if you shoot our thing at a reduced price." It's like, nah, fuck you, pay me. Like, literally, I've never once accepted an exposure price deduction for fucking photography or any real life work that I do.
I mean,
And
do
it's
you
kind of like
really
you're
wanna
asking the
live
same
in a
thing.
world where
from-
like you pay streamers to react to your content though? Like,
No,
I don't
no,
know, that
here's
seems
the
like
fix.
worse.
Here's the fix, and it's so easy. It is literally so fucking easy. Here's how you make you fix all React content, okay? You don't react to the entire thing. It is literally just that simple. Like, take the time to pre-watch the video, figure out what segments you want to watch, actually, like, have commentary, like, prepared for the fucking thing that you already watched, and then present that to your audience. And that right there, that is fair use as fair use can possibly be. That is transforming the work into something else, even if it's live. But you sitting there and being in the corner of the screen and watching the entire thing and pausing it and commentating on it, even if it's 2 or 3 or 4 times longer than what the actual length of the video is not fair use. Period.
Would you? I can't really. I legitimately do not know like the details of like fair use law and all that kind of thing. I did like a brief school report on like the H3 issue like back in like when I was still in college. Like did like a brief like essay on that shit for some class of mine, but like my experience and knowledge of the fair use laws are not like that great. All I can really say is that like I can understand some of the issues with like the way that React content works now, but it seems like sometimes it benefits you and sometimes it doesn't. And it seems like getting rid of the way that it is now would benefit nobody, because if you're reacting to clips and something gets taken out of context, now you have absolutely like no way of defending yourself against like the out of context clips, right? Because that other person has now like been able to say, oh well, I was just trying to like abide by fair use, so anything that I take out of context and react to make you look bad, now like that's a whole different issue, you know what I mean? Hey, I can't hear you. Sorry, your microphone is not working. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Will, I can't hear you, dude. My bad. Not sure what happened. No worries, you're good. Can't hear you still. Nope. Nah.
Hello? Hello? Did I fix it?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that.
It's all good.
What was I saying? Okay, so
Yeah.
regardless of whether or not, like, I completely agree with you. I agree that that's a potential issue, or we got to figure out a problem. We got to figure out a workaround, right? I reiterate that it has nothing to do with fair use. It still makes it illegal. And then like, I just made one suggestion of what we could do, right? How to instantly make your React content fair use. That's my suggestion. But I'm sure other people can figure out other ways to do it too.
Yeah,
And I'll send you the research that I made for the thing. It's a pretty nice little document, all nicely organized. So
You're good. I mean, my concern really isn't so much about the legality. It just seemed like a very strange angle to take for that kind of panel. Like, I mean, would you say that React content is moral, even if it's not legal?
I think it's moral sometimes. I think it can also be immoral. Like, just
When
the
it
fact that it's React
when
content doesn't make it immoral. I'm sorry, that's a better answer.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying. What would need to happen for you to like consider that kind of thing immoral?
If you, let's say you react to a piece of content and, you get 1 million views on it and they get 10 views on it, that's not cool.
Right, but let's say that person has been streaming for 10 years and you started your channel yesterday. Would you not say that that might have like play some sort of role in you not getting as much out of it as they did?
Okay, but if someone gets 1 million views on a video, they made $10,000.
Right, but let's say they had 100,000 subscribers in the first place, and it was just like a video that did like a little bit better, right? And you have 10 subscribers. If they react to your content, it's probably guaranteed that they're going to make more money off of it than you did because they've been around for longer and they've established themselves as a creator more.
Okay, I don't disagree. I'm not saying that you need to make an equal amount of money to the person that reacted to your content. It's like when I pay for advertising somewhere, like, I understand that, like, I'm not gonna get 100% of what I paid for, right? Um,
Mm.
because some people will watch the ad and they won't do anything about it, right? But like, just in my scenario, if someone gets 1 million fucking views and that only leads to 10 people clicking on your video, that seems kind of shitty to me.
I will say though, it's probably 10 more people that would have clicked that would have clicked on your video anyway. You know what I
Why?
mean?
No, but
Like
why do you say that though? But there were already 1 million people that watched this other guy watch your video. Like,
right,
why? How
because
can you say
because
that?
the other guy found your video, right? So they showed it to their audience. I don't like I don't know as an audience member, I don't know why I would watch it again. I know
That's
your
the
point
problem.
about like you're not like adding to it or anything, but if there is a chance that you could benefit off of it, I don't know. Like you're putting something on a public platform, somebody else can find it. If they choose to react to it and make some money off of it, like well, I don't know. Either it's good content and they'll subscribe to you, or it was bad content and they won't. So like you can either take their feedback and you can like make content that might profit you more in the future, or you can keep making the content you want to, which might not profit you but might profit somebody else. Like I don't know, it seems like you've got enough control in the situation where you have like the opportunity to improve your own content and your own channel to like benefit off of it the way other people benefit off it.
Sure. I mean, and that just is the real. That is how it works, right? I mean, it's like Chud
Yeah.
Logic saw EDF 1, said it was a decent video. It got 2,000 views. Said EDF Part 2 was complete ass and didn't even finish it. That video has less than like 700 views, right? So I mean, that is the dynamic of how it works. And right, like I wasn't like, oh no, you called my video terrible and now I'm gonna DMCA you and all this other shit, right? Obviously, taking feedback is, it's fine. It's a good thing. It needs to be. A lot of these things kind of just, I think, have to be handled on a case by case basis. Like basically everything else that revolves around fair use, like it has to be determined on a case by case basis. Because we can sit here all day and we can come up with scenarios where we think it's completely ethical for a React streamer to react to something, right? But I think that I can come up with ways where it's not okay for them to. And then underlying all of that, even if they are ethically reacting to your content, most of the time it still isn't legal unless they ask your permission.
I mean, again, like I don't maybe I'm just retarded. I don't know why I'm struggling so much with the like legal aspect of the conversation because the internet and the content produced on the internet is such a novel thing that like you see how the music industry and how the movie industry are so hard to get into nowadays because of all the contracts and paperwork that you have to sign and like loopholes that you have to jump through and all this type of thing just to make sure that everything is done so everybody gets their fair share of things. It seems like I don't know. I can't think of another thing I would want to happen to the space less than that happen. You know what I mean? Like the last thing I
Well,
want for the internet is everybody having to sign paperwork for everything just so you can do a React video. That seems like insane. You know, but I
sure,
feel like
that's
that's what
insane.
it would lead to if we like abide by the law strictly.
I'm gonna take that back. Actually, I don't think that's that insane. What I would posit to you, Ollie, is that it's annoying until you need that paperwork to protect your own work. And then you're actually very grateful that all of these things are in place for you to make sure that your shit is protected.
I don't know, like what do you mean by protected though? Nobody's claiming it as their own content. They're just reacting to it. It's pretty obvious that it's not their content, which is like the big thing in like other entertainment realms, like
Yeah,
music or
but
movies.
you can't use my music in your content either.
Yeah, I know
You can't
because
react to
like
my entire song. It is the exact same lines of law that protect a 3.5 minute long song that protect a hour and a half long video. It's the
right,
same
but
law.
there's been criticisms of that kind of thing too, especially from like the movie review community. I don't know if you're familiar with Your Movie Sucks, but you probably are. Like like a lot of these people who review movies have gotten into trouble for the reviews that they've done because of like fair use law and everything. When a lot of times like the criticism, even if it's harsh, ends up making the movie more interesting, like for people to go and watch. You know, so there are times where like React content can benefit you, but it wouldn't benefit you if you had all this like bureaucracy in place. You know what I mean? You can either choose to like have it sometimes benefit you if your content's good, or it benefits nobody ever because of like the paperwork and like loops you got to jump through.
Okay, let's say or there's two parties, all right? There's the Your Movie Sucks guys, right? And let's say Shrek 4, all right? So they do the Shrek 4 thing and they say it's complete ass, okay? Um so the people at whatever DreamWorks are all pissed off and are now going to go and attempt to DMCA this video, right? So they attempt to DMCA the video and it doesn't work because it's, the work that they do on that channel, regardless of whatever criticism of the movie, whether it's positive or negative, is transformative of the work enough that they're allowed to post it under fair use, right? Or they're allowed to use it under fair use. What you see there is there's two parties there, and one party definitely has an advantage because of the law, right? And we should upheld that kind of thing because like, well, yeah, those people like they transform the work. They they take they edit the shit out of it. It's like a 20-minute long video and they have all the clips and blah 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 and they do all the stuff, right? Like that's definitely transformative.
I don't know.
So so it's like we
I
want the
don't
law
think you
when we
should be
want
able
it and
to.
we want it when you don't. Like I'm just kind of confused.
I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't be able to take down videos just because you don't like what they're saying about your movie. You know what I mean?
Right. Right, but
But
okay, but
that's what
if those
happens.
people, well, but if those people had watched like the whole hour and a half long movie straight, and they did it like what is it, the Space Theater 3000? Why the fuck am I fucking this up? Where basically they play the B movies on TV. Mystery Science Theater. Yeah, Mystery Science Theater, where they sit in the fake cinema and they watch the B movie on the TV and they just kind of like talk during the movie, right? Like they get
Mm.
permission to play that movie or to use that movie in like the TV show that they do, right? But they watch the entire movie straight and like like they're watching it in the movie theater. If that was what that channel was and DreamWorks came to sue them, they would immediately win and the DMCA claim would go through because you cannot react to an entire piece of content all the way through. But the reason why they're protected is because they don't do that,
Yeah, but I don't
which
know.
is a
I
good
think
thing.
when you're pausing a video and you're giving commentary, granted, that is if you are pausing the video and giving commentary, that kind of thing. I do feel like to some extent you're transforming the content in a meaningful way.
Sure.
Maybe I'm misinterpreting that part of the law, but at least to me, that does seem like transforming the content in a meaningful way, even if you are playing the whole thing. I'll be honest, in like on my old channel when I was doing more video essay type shit, I would play longer clips of people saying shit just because like I wanted to make sure that all the context was involved, nothing was being misrepresented, and it was kind of almost like a way of like signaling to whoever is watching the video that like, hey, I take the context shit seriously as well, right? Um, I can understand where you're coming from. Like, I'll even say like, listen, I'm a Destiny fan. I'm like a DDG or whatever, but I do sometimes don't like the way that he will just like watch videos and not super duper react to them and stuff. That being said,
Right.
though, like, um, I don't know. Like I feel like people are better off without too much like bureaucracy involved in these kinds of processes. Where it's like if you don't like that they're reacting to your video, file a DMCA claim or something like that, and see if you can get it taken down. Otherwise, like I don't see why you would need to get the law involved.
Um, Once again, I think it's just a case by case basis. Like, why would you want to DMCA someone's video, like React video of your content? Well, if they use the entirety of your work, you don't get any views from it. It's a creative piece of content that you spent a long time working on. And the purpose of the reason why they're reacting to your video is because they want to make money off their stream. They are literally breaking all four of the things that determine whether or not it's fair use, right? So, like, there exists a world, okay, where, like, Destiny watched F-Hoop, and he only reacted to it, he said 3 words while he watched the entire 30-minute video, literally, right? And, like, thank God they were a positive 3 words and a laugh, because then it led to a bunch of people going and clicking on the video. But, like, there's totally a universe where they just didn't click that shit, you know? And that would have been him with a 7,000 viewer audience that watched my video, and I didn't get any benefit from it, and I spent 5 months working on it. It's like there are other, I think there are a lot of things to consider, and I think it's
I
important.
agree that there's a lot of things to consider. I don't know if we're considering the same things though, because again, like a new creator coming into a space and making content is never going to benefit as much as anybody who's reacting to content. But if you grow your own platform and you're like smart about the content that you produce, and you get an audience, you can also benefit off of A, your content, and B, reacting to other people's content, C, potentially reacting to other people's reactions to your content, right? Like there's many different ways that you can profit off of it, that like just because the initial unfairness exists doesn't mean that you can't still get something from it. If that makes any sense.
It does.
I originally titled this this part of the stream about bullying. I don't think it's gone in that direction. I don't know if you have something to say about bullying. It's totally cool if you don't. I might have totally just misunderstood like your stances on this type of thing, but
let's talk about bullying.
Say what?
Let's talk about bullying. Why not?
Yeah. Do you see a lot of bullying in these spaces?
Do I see a lot of bullying in these spaces? I think it kind of depends what you would call bullying. I think that it does happen sometimes.
Right.
Being a dick for no reason. Yeah. Being a dick just for the sake of being a dick, because you get gratification from being a dick.
Do you think that that's like negatively impacting these spaces?
I don't necessarily know if it's affecting all of the spaces. I'm pretty biased, right? Because like I really was a hardcore Chud Logic viewer for a lot of the time.
Yeah, I'm getting annoyed. He's not putting out content fast enough. I've already watched all the videos.
Yeah, and I just feel like that space in particular. I just think that space has gotten a lot more filled with bullies, to be frank, honestly. I don't know. I just think the actions are kind of ramping up. I just don't think that that's like a nice thing for anyone to be doing in anybody's community. I
don't think anybody online is like concerned about being nice to each other. That comes from all sides.
I'm just gonna. I don't know. I don't want to be doing that anymore. So I'm gonna try.
No, you're good. I mean, like it's not for everybody, right? Not everybody should be abrasive, and not everybody needs to be. Personally, I like on top of being a like trans dude, so like the testosterone is already making me like more aggressive and shit. I've always been a more abrasive person. I love roasting people. I love getting roasted. Like sometimes, like the making jokes at other people's expense is not necessarily something that I'm like against.
Being abrasive is fine.
Yeah, but like don't think you can really put a cap on that. You really have to just remove yourself from the space once it becomes too much. And when things become overwhelmingly too much for too many people, the space just starts to like lose its what do you call it? Loses its impact. You know, like the community just starts to dissipate if you don't put a cap on it at some point. But it seems like, you know, Chud's got a pretty good grip on his like moderation and all that kind of stuff. It's not like it's gonna go crazy. All you really want is a space where people can engage with you and like keep watching your videos. Honestly, right? Like anything else is like kind of up to you to decide. And if a space where people can speak their minds more freely is more profitable, then that's what we should be encouraging, right?
I guess at the expense of harassing other people that don't explicitly want to be harassed or don't really know what they're getting into.
If you're putting content online like publicly, you're automatically signing up for the potential of being harassed.
Yeah, but are you signing? Like, I get it, but I think that there's a limit. And I think YouTube and Twitter, Facebook, and all of these companies, they agree that there's a limit too. That's why they put, you know, an anti-bullying harassment thing in their TOS. Like, I've had someone like say like, you know, like, hey, like I want Will to die, like in a YouTube video, and like people should like, you know, do things to them, and like, oh, look at this guy, he does X, Y, and Z. It's like, yeah, I reported that shit. Like, fuck that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. Like, I had
It always
some
gets
sort
to
of
that point though. Like it spirals out of control. People
I don't
telling other
know if
people to go
like
kill themselves. People don't like. I'm telling. Like it just people, bro. I mean, dude. So Chud Noir has been renamed to the Spice Pit, a Chud Logic production or some horse shit. And it's like they had a stream
that's
yesterday
sad.
that just featured like Elder Drazi's in his content and his like TikTok page and all this other shit for like the entire 2 or 3 hour long stream. Why did they do that? Was it because they thought Elder Drazi is an interesting person and has great content? Or did they do it to hate watch and bully him and try to find something so they could fuck over his actual life? Like, I want you to use your best thinking cap here to guess why it is that they decided to watch 2 hours of Elder Drazi yesterday live streamed in the Spice Chat.
I think the difference is that when you see people making insults at somebody else, you see it as like harassment and bullying, and I just see it as like getting razzed and like slightly inconvenienced for a little while until I choose to close whatever social media app I'm seeing like the negative like comments on. You know what I mean? I don't listen. Okay, I'm gonna tell you like a little personal story. I was involved with somebody once, and their girlfriend found out. And I had them like threatening to find me in real life and jump me, right? They were commenting on everything that I was posting on Instagram, and they were like legitimately coming after me and like threatening to call my job and all that shit, right? That's what I would consider harassment. So when somebody like tells me that I should go kill myself online, I don't really see that as like negatively impacting me in any way unless I like take them seriously, which is a choice of mine, right? So if you're being hate watched, right? There's nothing stopping you from removing yourself until the hate is over, and then you go back to normal business, or you respond to some of the hate if it makes you some content, right? Oops, sorry about that.
Lean into the bullying.
Yeah, that's what I did when I was getting canceled over my like trans mask take, which we can get to later. But like, I got like I was telling Smith this yesterday. There was like 9,000 or so people that were quote tweeting me. I had people sending me like videos of themselves like, you know, cutting themselves and that kind of shit. Like it was wild. It was like I was getting like actual graphic content sent to my DMs and shit. And like, you know, I was just I was just on my lunch break at work. I was like, damn, that sucks. All right. Anyway, block. Move on. Like I don't know. When I see the way some people handle the hatred, um, it just confuses me. I don't understand where the hang up is, you know?
Because it's all fun and games until it isn't. Ollie.
Give me 2 seconds, I'll be right back. So sorry.
Sure.
Talk to chat or something.
Hi, chat. I don't even know how many people are in chat. I haven't looked at this shit the whole time. Oh, God. Let's hear. You'll shoot your eye out. Past the time.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I had to say goodnight to somebody. You're going to bed.
No, don't be sorry.
Um, you said it's all fun and games until it isn't. The point
Yeah.
where I draw the line is if loved ones of mine get doxxed or if I get doxxed, right? I wouldn't even care as much if like my personal information got leaked. It's more about like the people I'm involved with in real life that I want to protect. That's usually where I draw the line. Up until that point, everything that happens online is easily avoidable. And I've said this before, like not to you personally or anybody, but like on an old stream of mine, I legitimately said like I'm here for fun, I'm here for, money and content and all that shit. If it gets to be too much, the delete button on every account I own is like within easy reach of mine, and I can literally make all of it go away whenever I want, right? So if it ever gets to be too much for me, I have an out. My criticism a lot of the time is that people don't seem to like that out. They want the entire space to change for them. And that's where my criticism often comes in.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm just not gonna partake. I
And
think
that's
I'm just
totally
gonna
cool.
slowly. I think I'm just gonna slowly, over time, as I produce content that's pretty distinct from this space, and as I uh, stop enjoying the heroin that is Chud Spicy Chat, I'll just be done. And I admittedly kind of fuck myself over by, engaging with this, you know, engaging with this to begin with, perhaps. Not
I
knowing what it
don't
could possibly turn
hmm,
into.
I don't think you're necessarily fucking yourself over by switching gears and finding like a genre of content that's more suitable to you.
Oh,
I
that's not
think
what I
both
meant. I meant like I feel
oh,
like I've gotten an audience of people that hate me, that follow me around a bit. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like it kind of sucks that I had like originally they were kind of my fans because Chud Logic liked me, and now that Chud Logic doesn't like me, they're all my anti fans, which is kind of a fucking bummer. So
I
yeah,
mean,
so
I'm
I'm just gonna kind of distance from all this shit and yeah.
yeah, I mean, like, honestly, props to you for like taking the onus on yourself to distance yourself, right? Because like some people won't even do that. So that like no, I think that's the right move. If it's not for you, then definitely find some avenues that work better for you. I will say, I think you could probably make some banger video essays if I'm being completely honest. It it seems like you are a very like creative type of person, and I think the video essay format lends itself much more easily to like creatives who are looking for not just communicating information or reacting to like drama content or whatever, or but like who want to actually like create a piece of artwork essentially in video form. I think that like lends itself to that much easier. If that
And
makes sense.
interviews. Well, and like
Yeah.
interview, I love interviewing on live streams. Like originally, I got into live streaming so that I could interview people that thought they were being gang stalked, right? And
Yeah.
like that is still something that I'm gonna do. You know?
Yeah, and that's totally like cool. Like there's different things that you can do, and I guarantee you, this is this is something that I was trying to explain to Smith yesterday. But if you don't engage with like the people that dislike you, right, and you go off, you do your own thing, they'll get bored and they'll find somebody else. You know what I mean? It's more just like the more you feed that energy, the more it'll come back to you. That's the main thing you got to remember. Some people they get that friction and they make content off of it and it becomes like a thing that they can turn into a positive. That's not for everybody though, which is like I can understand that if that's not for you, you know.
I thought I was signing up for a space that was about politics and debate and philosophy and interesting ideas, and it turned out that I signed up for a space that cares more about drama and Lavloon and other dumb shit. To be blunt, you know.
Yeah,
So
the lab stuff
it's
is definitely like dragged out quite a bit. But also like you said, right, the Twitch poll space has kind of evolved over time, and a lot of the whole aspect of it has kind of fizzled down a bit. I will say I'm curious to see what 2024 brings, if that might spark up some of the politics side of things a little more, because we'll have presidential elections and that type of thing.
True.
So personally, I've been like thinking about that, thinking of like, all right, what content am I gonna make off of like fucking Joe Biden and Ron DeSantis or whatever. But like, again, I get where you're coming from. I originally kind of thought the space was a little bit more about like the political side of things too, but I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing that it's not like that anymore. So
We
yeah.
can agree to disagree. That's okay.
Right. Nah, I appreciate that. So what are what are your questions about transsexualism and all that?
Is it weird that sometimes I feel like transsexual sometimes is like the N word for trans people?
I think I can think of a few words that might be the N word for trans people, but I don't think transsexual is one of them.
I feel
Some
like
people
it's
act like it,
one of them.
but
I that's kind of I guess what I'm getting at, you know.
I feel
I
like
think it's
people who call
interesting.
themselves transsexuals are more like people who might call themselves Uncle Toms or something like that. That's more of the reception that the word gets within the trans community from what I've seen. It's like a betrayal of the general ideology that's popular right now.
Why do trans people of whatever you'd call yourself, transsexual, transgender, whatever, why do certain trans people, I should say, bully trans people that call themselves transsexual?
I think that it comes from because I've talked to some people who don't like the word transsexual, and what they say is that it comes off as like almost like an attempt at oppression Olympics, where if you use the word transsexual, you're kind of characterizing yourself as quote unquote more oppressed because you're defining yourself more based off like your dysphoria you have over your sexual characteristics, right? So like boobs or penis or whatever, like the things that you want to get rid of so you can transition. You're defining yourself by the dysphoria you have over those things, and so it's like some sort of oppression Olympics thing. Personally, I disagree with that argument. I think if you're gonna use the sex gender difference, or like the distinction between sex and gender to argue in favor of trans people, then using the term transsexual only makes sense to describe people who are like trying to alter their sexual characteristics. You know what I mean?
Could you repeat the last 10 seconds? I'm sorry, I glitched out.
It's all good. I basically said like, in my opinion, if you're making the sex gender difference, or the distinction between sex and gender, and you're saying sex is like the biological and gender is a social construct, then anybody who is like transitioning from female to male or vice versa is better off using the term transsexual because that better describes like your experience. You know what I mean? Versus just transgender, which has to do with the social construct of it because it's gender, not sexual. Uh-oh, your mic cut out again. I'm so... Yeah, now you're still quiet. You got this.
Hello? God, I hate this computer
What's
sometimes.
up?
Hi. Hi.
Hey.
Sorry, that's fucking annoying.
It's all good. What were
Okay,
you
here's a
saying?
controversial question that I'm curious about. Are there certain, you're a trans person, are there certain
Yeah.
trans people that you don't think are trans people?
Yeah, for sure.
Who are they?
One of them is Lane Loverboy. Like the, jeez, I was trying to find them again on Twitter yesterday. They might have blocked me. I'm not sure. I highly doubt it. But if you know who Gami is, they were arguing with each other. Lane. I can't remember how they pronounce or how they spell their name. It's basically a person who calls themselves transmasculine, but they're pretty feminine, and they seem to be grifting off of the transmasculine label for clout. I will say somebody else you probably know is Demon Mama. I don't think they're fucking trans, and I'll say that with my whole chest.
Whoa, spicy. Okay, why do you say that?
Because they've made absolutely no attempt to transition whatsoever, and everything that they say about trans people completely like comes off as like a cis person who watched Steven Crowder and then decided actually the way that Steven Crowder characterizes trans people, I agree with that. It might be absolutely retarded and an optical nightmare, but that's what I think trans people are, and I support that. Like, that's what it comes off as. When you say that like people are self-identifying as like you want to be a woman, all you have to do is self-identify as a woman, that I don't think you have any idea what transsexualism is. I don't think you have any idea about what dysphoria is, and I think you're just literally talking out of your ass because you're making money off of insecure teenagers.
God damn.
I'm not
God
kidding.
damn.
I've called out Demon Mama twice on Twitter before my account got suspended by literally people that would have probably watched her unironically, except they're from France. So I don't know. Like my original account got suspended because somebody mass reported it and shit. There's a reason why I take like such a hard stance against this stuff, and it's because we are like hardcore losing the culture war on trans issues, and now we have Ron DeSantis running for president, and I've got dipshit fucking like lefties trying to argue why you should be able to identify as whatever you want. Like phrases like "quote unquote" sex is real in actual conservative legislation does not come out of nowhere. It comes out of like the left enabling so much misinformation about what like trans people really are that like the right doesn't even need to lie about us because so many people on the left already do it for us. And people like Demon Mama just make it worse. That's why I have such a hard stance against it.
What do you God, I try not to talk about people too much. Why do you think Dear Mom is doing it? Why do you think? What's her motivation?
Money. Straight up. Money and
Straight
attention.
up money?
Yeah. Probably some sort of like ego validation on top of that, but I think a lot of people who like get into this stuff, even if it's not about trans issues, even if it's about something else, like Lav and Women, for example, is like another example of somebody who I think is absolutely 100% grifting off of the oppression of women or like whatever issues women are facing right now to like save their own face, make some money, and then like get their ego stroked in the meantime. I think they're pretty analogous in either way, and I think they're both gender abolitionists too. So
Okay, if you believe that transsexuals are the only real trans people, does that make you a trans medicalist?
yeah, 100%. I'm a trans med. I don't believe in I believe that the main thing that you need for like to be considered trans is dysphoria. If you don't have dysphoria and you want to like mess around with your gender, I think that's totally fine. I don't care if you want to use like crazy pronouns. I don't care if you want to identify as rocks, trees, leaves, frogs, whatever. I just wouldn't consider you trans because you do that. And the fact that that is contentious and that gets so much backlash from people tells me, at least in my opinion, that what's really going on is people want the clout that comes with the label of trans. They don't actually want to like discover themselves or find who they truly are. They want to be able to like basically bend the definition of what trans means to suit them. And when I see other trans people or transsexuals or whatever defending this shit, I see it as like 100% pick me shit. Because you're basically taking a concept that refers to a certain group of people who have gender dysphoria and you're changing it so that cis people can feel a little bit more cozy in LGBT spaces or whatever, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's gotten like insanely out of hand. That's all I can really say.
So I have an answer that's in my head for why I think this
Yeah.
is, but I'm curious. Why can't all the trans people just get along? I mean, fuck it. I mean, maybe the people that want to be dog gendered or cat gendered or whatever, maybe I'll play devil's advocate and say maybe they should be just as valid as trans people as transsexuals. Why shouldn't they be?
I'm not arguing in favor or against their validity. They can do whatever they want and they can create their own communities. Just don't call yourself something you're not, which is trans. Don't call yourself trans. You're not. You don't have gender dysphoria. There's nothing compelling you to like. You don't lose anything by not transitioning. I do. If the government takes away my rights to medical like care or whatever, it could have a serious impact on my life. Versus for other people, it might inconvenience them or they might be bummed out because they can't like cross dress as convincingly. You know what I mean? It's like two different things. You can do whatever you want, especially if you're an adult. I believe in informed consent. Identify as whatever you want, make your own communities, but don't come into mine and then start speaking for me, and then like giving right wingers more of an argument for why I shouldn't have rights because you wanted to run your mouth in my name. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I guess for me the big thing is like I think that people that are transsexual, like they have very specific needs that need to be met, for them to live happy and successful lives. Whereas I feel like people that are trans but are not transsexual, they have a lot less like stake in the game because theoretically they could live in a state where they don't get access to the medication or whatever. And if they're just
Exactly.
trans but not, transsexual or doing anything to transition medically, right? That what do they care? They just cross dress, right? I mean, that's the only.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that's I don't know. I'm sympathetic to that argument personally.
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, going, because I think I saw you responding to my tweet where I said, like, hashtag transsexual, not transgender. It's mainly because when people hear, oh, gender is just a social construct of things, a lot of progressives use that as an argument for why we should just, like, absolutely, like, destroy the concept of gender in the first place, and I disagree with that.
Okay.
Just because something is a social construct doesn't mean that you can just like completely disregard it. Minute, like the concept of a minute or a second is a social construct, but I'm not going to come out here and identify as a second or as a dollar or anything like that, or as like a left turn signal or whatever the fuck, right? Like these are social things that we have implemented, but they benefit us, and we understand that they serve a purpose. Just like similarly, I believe that like the concepts of man and woman as they work socially, they serve a purpose, and to just like completely abandon that, I think not only hurts trans people, but it also hurts cis people who are gender nonconforming.
Would you say that stereotypical gender roles have, at least in America, have fallen by the wayside over time? Like, there's obviously less pressure to conform to your stereotypical gender role, regardless of your gender.
I'm gonna be I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't know how much I can speak on that with confidence because um I live in a specific area where things are a little bit more progressive, and so the need for stereotypical gender roles is not as concrete. If I were to go like to Louisiana or Alabama or something like that, and I were to go to like a small town, I might have a completely different understanding of like the stereotypical gender roles and how necessary they are. I think that masculinity and femininity are things that are undeniable. They exist. They're different from each other, and depending on which way you lean, um, is going to kind of determine which stereotypes you play into more. But I think that the the concept of like gender and how it applies to transsexuals is way more about like being accepted in your environment and what the definition of womanhood or manhood is in that environment. It's not so much a general thing. The more unifying experience is the dysphoria and the sexual transition, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like let's say it's 200 years in the future, and like okay, I guess my first thing, my personal opinion, I think that it's like obvious that gender roles are not as important as they used to be. Like
Sorry, yeah, short answer, yeah, I agree with you.
right,
Sorry.
yeah, no, I know, I got that from what you were saying. No, it's fine.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, no, like, and I think that we're leaning, as time goes on, as we go another 100, 200 years, right? Like, I think stereotypically gender roles are just going to be completely gone. Like, I think we'll be more just like a unified human race. I'm willing to put money that if we could see in the future to this world, there would still be transsexual people, but there wouldn't be as many trans other, whatever non-transsexual
Yeah,
trans people. I think
I
that
would
they would
agree.
probably just fall into society. They would just be whatever it was that they whatever, because there was no societal pressure to do anything. Like you could just do whatever.
My issue is that I think those people already kind of exist, and the thing is they just don't apply the trans label to themselves. They just go by like the label cis, and then they just are gender nonconforming or whatever. Like people who don't subscribe to stereotypical gender roles but aren't trans, they've existed like forever. The only
Sure.
difference between those people and like transgender people who don't have dysphoria is the latter group chooses to identify as trans. You know what I mean? And when you're talking about a culture war issue where certain people's medical rights are at stake, I don't think people whose like medical rights are at stake should be talking about anything related to that. Especially when it's scientific, like when on top of that there's like a medical aspect to it and a psychological aspect to it. Like you don't want people who have no idea what they're talking about discussing the issue already. When you're co-opting a space and you're like obfuscating the point and making it like this broader social issue, you're playing into every fear that conservatives already have, and it's just making it worse for the people that are actually impacted, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. That's like it's my big fear personally. You
Yeah.
know.
I was in a Twitter space a week ago or something like that. And it was like we were debating transmedicalism versus like self ID or whatever. And it's something I pointed out, which is it's going to go into the like trans manifesto or whatever as well. Is even for me growing up, before I even understood what like being trans was or anything, the amount of like actual transsexuals I saw represented in right wing media is ridiculous. Like it was very very rare. There was an actual trans person represented in right wing media. Most of the time, it was like some they them non-binary they fab or like some dude with like a beard and colored hair that was just like running their mouth about something they had no idea, discussing gender like it was like a fun aesthetic or vibe. And I saw this through the lens of like Stephen Crowder or like Paul Joseph Watson putting it on their videos and thinking, oh, that's what trans people must be. There's no way I could be that because I'm not fucking delusional and I can like understand like biology and shit. Once I found Hunter Avalon, I realized, that's actually what gender dysphoria is like the discrepancy between your identity and your biology. That's when I started to actually realize, like, this might actually apply to me, and I might actually benefit from taking HRT and that kind of thing, right? But it's because of, like, the progressive movement's willingness to just let misinformation about transsexualism and like gender dysphoria run rampant that prevented me from possibly finding the truth out sooner in life because all I had at the time was right-wing media and they repeatedly chose to show only the people that were misrepresenting their own side, if that makes any sense. That's kind of where my problem lies is like there's this that's a big part of it, at least for me, is that there's this like I hear this argument a lot from other leftists or whatever, or people who are more left than me, saying like, well, why should we care about what our enemy thinks of us? Why should we try and like appease them in any way, or what? Why should we care about how we look to them? I don't really care how like the individual trans person looks to a conservative. Like, there's always going to be like even actual transsexuals that will make other people look bad, right? It's not so much about like you having to like have launder your own image for the sake of the group, right? But if you're fighting for trans rights, people should probably know what trans people are, you know? They should probably under like have a firm grasp on these concepts and like you don't have to worry about how you look, but you have to worry about like people understanding your beliefs. And if you're intentionally misrepresenting those, or even not intentionally, even if you're unintentionally misrepresenting those beliefs, like you're doing damage to the movement as a whole because now nobody knows what the movement's actually fighting for.
Okay. Interesting.
I
All
know
right.
that
So I
was a
got
lot, but
no, no, please don't. No. So I got 15 minutes left here on the thing. I gotta go at 6:45 and start cooking din din.
No
But I
problem.
got this person in my chat, Cat the Vat,
Cool.
that disagrees with some of the things that you're saying, and I would like to ask a couple other questions because I think they're interesting.
Sure.
So, Cat the Vat, how does Ollie feel about non-binary people or they/them pronouns?
Uh, non-binary people can have dysphoria. If you have dysphoria, you're trans. That's all. I actually feel bad for dysphoric non-binary people more probably than like binary transsexuals because nobody takes them seriously because everybody co-opts the non-binary shit for attention.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think about how to phrase this properly so I don't get canceled. No, I'm just kidding. Do do you have to pass as the by visually as the other gender to be trans?
No, not at all. It's not about passing. It's about having the dysphoria or like the desire to like change genders, basically. Some people don't have the ability to pass. Some people are so far within like their uh assigned gender at birth or whatever that it may be impossible for them to pass for a very long time, right?
I
And
guess
that's
maybe
not
here's
really
a
what
better
it's about.
question. Like, do they have to make the effort to try and pass?
I would assume is that if you had dysphoria, you would make that effort. Yeah, but like my issue, like, something else that I'm writing about is the fact that like there's people who don't believe you should even have to try in order to be considered like whatever gender you identify as. But these are the same people who will look at me, say like, "Oh, hey, you don't pass 100%. You're a butch lesbian. Haha, you just look like a girl who's like very tomboyish or whatever." And it's like I don't really like appreciate my masculinity being gate kept by people who think that it's oppressive to even have to try and be masculine in the first place to be considered trans masculine. You know what I mean? It's like you either believe in these concepts or you don't. Don't come and gatekeep my masculinity if you believe you shouldn't even have to present as masculine or feminine to be considered whatever. You know?
Okay. Well, fuck. Okay. Well, let's say you're a trans woman. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the dysphoria. We could even, well, let's even say theoretically you've got it diagnosed, right? But
Right.
let's say whether because you don't feel comfortable doing it or you just don't want to or you don't have the money, like you don't make any effort to pass, but you still want to go and use the women's restroom because you feel that you're a woman internally. How do you feel about that situation?
You should absolutely not use the women's restroom if you don't pass as a woman. If you don't like 100% pass, like some I'm gonna be honest, some cis women don't 100% pass as women. So like it's not so much about like passing to a T. A lot of the like specifics are going to be up to culture, environment, that kind of thing. But if you're not making any effort whatsoever, you have to have the self awareness to know that what you're doing is going to be damaging to yourself, to everybody around you, and it's just going to come off as harassment in general. If you have dysphoria and you attempt, to pass enough that you think like you can use the women's room, then by all means go for it. I think the women's bathroom thing is like a little bit retarded in general, just because I don't think anybody gets assaulted in women's bathrooms like that. If they
It's
did,
usually
I would be
women
getting
assaulting
assaulted
other
every day
women.
in the men's room. Yeah, exactly. Like, if this was such a big thing or such a big problem, I'd be getting assaulted daily in the men's room, but I don't. So, generally, I think the restroom conversation is a little dumb, but I don't think you should be going in there if you don't, you know, make some sort of attempt to be feminine at least.
I let Kat the Vat know that she really wants to come in here and debate you, but I don't have time for that. So I said she
Oh,
should
okay,
DM you.
fair.
I think it's a she. I'm sorry. They should probably DM you and talk to you if they'd like.
Yeah, sure,
So
of course. I'm always
they
open.
have another question.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What if someone is dysphoric but doesn't actually medically transition? Are they transgender but not transsexual?
Um, I would say you're probably either like a closeted transsexual in some sense, or you're a desister, I think is what they're called, right? Like if you have gender dysphoria but you refuse to transition, I think they call those people desisters. That might be a better like way of describing yourself, because if you say you're trans or you're transsexual, it's going to invite like some sort of like assumption about what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Okay. I've been on, I do the whole Twitter thing. I love Brother Malcolm. I really enjoy looking at his content. I've just been seeing this word desister a whole bunch, and I honestly thought I was pretty up to date on most of the lingo. Like, what does desister mean for people that don't know? What does that mean?
Um, let me let me look it up just to be safe on the safe side. Desister, transgender. Let's see what people say here. Loaded word, controversial research on desistance. Someone who previously identified as transgender but who re-identified with their biological sex prior to any medical intervention. So it seems like they might have like been thinking that they were trans or something like that, but they decided against any sort of medical transition. Seems to be like
Okay.
the general idea. I think Smith and Tuna Chip have both had like conversations about this kind of thing. They might be able to like give you more of the details, but I'm not super well versed on like the desister stuff. I would just say that like if you have gender dysphoria but you choose not to medically transition or like uh make any move, um honestly I feel sorry for you, because like dysphoria is a bitch to live with. I would definitely consider like medical transition if you can. But obviously like with red states and that kind of thing, there's always like reasons why somebody might not be able to. I don't think that that should keep you out of trans spaces.
Okay, I guess supposedly I asked the question wrong. How does Ollie feel
Okay.
about dysphoric people that don't transition? Is the question.
Like I said, I just feel sorry for them, honestly. Like it's an incredibly freeing experience. If you have dysphoria and you don't transition, I just feel sorry for you, honestly. Um,
All
you're
right.
not any less dysphoric. That's like the big point of suffering, right? So it's not like if you want to chime in on trans topics and that kind of thing, by all means. But I think you could probably only talk about the dysphoric aspects. You can't really talk about like the experience of transitioning or anything. But I don't know why somebody who's dysphoric and doesn't transition would want to consider themselves trans anyway, though. Like if they choose not to out of like a desire not to.
Okay. Will, this entire conversation could be rendered unnecessary by a source. Cat the Vat. Yeah, it's platforming, not the greatest issues about trans people. Please link your transgender sources where you learn this stuff. This culture war BS and it's unimportant. This is culture war BS and it's unimportant. They are literally stripping medical access and taking trans kids away in multiple states in the US right now. But I don't necessarily think it is culture war BS, right? Because like if the thing about the legislation is that when they pass the legislation, the people that it affects the most are the transsexual people.
Yeah,
Uh, and yeah, I'm saying this to Kat, So like that's why like it's almost it's I mean it's why we should keep fighting for trans issues, obviously.
yeah,
I don't know, like this
yeah.
doesn't
I
negate
mean,
anything about whether or not we should still like push for trans issues in my opinion. Like
yeah. I don't think like writing something off as like culture war bullshit is like necessarily like the right thing to do, because like you could say, oh, it's just culture war shit. Yeah, sure, but if people choose to have like a culture war, you can either engage with it or you can't. And the truth is that both sides have already engaged pretty heavily in the trans culture war. So we can either set the record straight and get back to like the medical facts about the matter, or we can keep indulging like people who want to speak on behalf of transsexuals who are like actually impacted by legislation as a result of culture wars, or we can do whatever else. So we have a choice here. We have a choice in the matter. And one thing that particularly frustrates me about leftist movements is that they're like they're almost like excited to be martyrs in these like battles and stuff like that. Personally, I want to make it to like 50. I want to make it to 80. I want to grow old as a transsexual, and I want to be able to enjoy my life with my hormones and my surgeries. I don't want to like be part of this like martyr complex that some cis people have, where they want to identify as trans and then speak for us so they can make us look bad or whatever, and then like get persecuted for it. I don't know. That's how it comes off to me, at least.
Mitch Linnell. So no source, just ass talk. I have one transgender on my show, so obviously I'm not wrong. I don't really understand what that means, to be honest.
I think they're accusing you of virtue signaling because you're talking to me, and they assume that you agree with literally everything I'm saying 100%.
Yeah, that's what people. I just more. Oh, what's up, babe? I'm just more curious about hearing what people have to say rather than I'm trying to make a specific prescription or
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
for sure.
saying my opinion.
Definitely,
Well, I mean, I have
like,
said a bunch of
I
my
definitely
opinions
got
on
that
it,
from
but
it, but yeah.
it's okay, people in the chat. We'll get through this. All right, there was one more question I wanted to do, and then it's time to go. So let me go peek through this mofo real quick. Hey, Mitch Linnell, check out my channel. There's tons of, I've done a ridiculous amount of extremely in-depth research content on this topic. So I would suggest you check that out. And not just think that it's all about one stream. There's a whole arc. So, I'm sorry, I lost the question. My bad. Give me one sec. Come on, where did you go?
I have somebody in my chat as well saying if you have dysphoria and you aren't trying to pass, it's because you're closeted and you wouldn't want to go in the women's bathroom for that reason. So, like, yeah, there's a point to that as well. If you have dysphoria, and you're not transitioning, it's either because like you really hate yourself or you're closeted, most likely.
Interesting. I don't know if I 100% agree, but it's an interesting take. You know, I'll be honest,
Yeah,
I can't find this question. I think I'm gonna call it. Any last little things you'd like to say to the people before we get out of here?
Not really. Sorry, like I'm not gonna say sorry. If I offended you over like anybody in Will's chat, if you guys are listening, if I offended you, fuck you. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. I'm not trying to antagonize your chat. I appreciate you talking to me, Will, and I appreciate the questions. It's always nice to have somebody who's like interested in discussing this type of thing. And thank you for like answering all my questions about the bullying stuff as well.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime.
Hell
Man.
yeah. We'll talk soon, okay?
See you later. Bye.
See ya. Peace.
Oh, there we go, folks. Another Will and his channel live stream in the bag. Hope you found it at least semi-interesting. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Maybe shoot your boy some dollars or a super chat or whatever. I got those things all enabled. Or don't. Yeah, I appreciate you all. You guys have guys, gals, everything in between. Have a good rest of your night, okay?